So today, boys and girls, what Miss Castro is showing you is my final product for the first writing piece of a pattern book, okay? So all of you should have your primary writing journals. Those are the notebooks that have the white space up at the top for you to draw, and then it has lines down at the bottom. If for some reason you don't have it available, this writing paper that I used is up, posted on our Google Classroom with the writing assignment if you need to use it, okay? So you're gonna have a total of 4 pages to make this pattern book. The first page, as you can see here, is the cover. It's the title, okay? So the cover has one thing that Miss Castro can do. What is Miss Castro doing? Miss Castro's reading. And you can clearly see that because you see me. I labeled myself with the sight word me on top of my head. I'm holding a book, which I labeled with the letter B, book. And then next to me, I have my bookcase with other books that I pick to read. So on the lines, I'm writing the title, which is I Can. And right underneath it, I'm explaining who is writing and illustrating this pattern book, which is me. That's why I write by Miss Castro. But you boys and girls are going to put your first and last name. Okay. So that's the first page. That's the cover. Okay. Then on the next page, page 2, you tell me something different that you can do. And this is what I showed you yesterday. I showed you that I am in my bed, and in my bedroom, there's a window, and out of the window, you can see the moon. I'm showing you that I'm sleeping. So my sentence says, I can sleep. Illustration matches the picture, and I showed you the window that's in my bedroom. Okay. You think of something different that you can do. All right. Maybe you can eat. Maybe you want to show me some type of food that you like to eat. Whatever it is that you want to illustrate, it's whatever you can do. Okay. Now, moving on to the next page, which is page 3. Page 3, you're explaining something different that you can do. So this is what Miss Castro is explaining what I can do. Okay. Now, the next 2 pages is a sample for the families to also understand what kindergarten writing is like. Okay. So Miss Castro is illustrating that she's in the kitchen. I labeled my stove. I labeled the object that I'm holding, which is the pot. I have food in there. Behind me is my refrigerator, which starts with the letter R. And I have myself, of course, there, which I labeled with the sight word me. Now, as you can see, my sentence needs to match my illustration. My sentence says, I can cook. Now, families, I want you to look at how I wrote cook. Cook is the way phonetically a child would hear that word. They're not going to write the word correctly, and I'm not expecting them to write the word correctly either. Whatever sounds that they hear from the word that they're writing, that's the letter that they're going to write for the word. And that's totally acceptable. That's what kindergarten writing is. I'm not going to dictate how to write the word. What I am going to encourage the children to do is to say the word, listen to the sounds that they hear, and to write the word themselves. I'm not going to write it for them. I'm not going to tell them how to write it. I can also encourage them to look at the Google Classroom, and if they want to use any of those resources there, they can use that. I know when I had kids in the classroom, I used to give them the Pictionary books. It's like the dictionary, but Pictionary has pictures. So they learned how to look for words in a Pictionary. If you happen to have a Pictionary book, that would be great too. You can use that resource. But with the writing process, I do not try to assist the child by giving them the answer. I encourage them to do the work themselves, because that's more authentic writing in kindergarten. So that's why you see I wrote the word cook in that manner, because they don't hear the O in cook. They don't know about that yet. So is the sound of the letter U, which is why I wrote cook in that way. So next and last page, boys and girls. I illustrated me with my daughter. And this is another example for the families to see. Look at how I labeled daughter. Duh. I put a B, B, and that's okay. Because in kindergarten, children will sometimes confuse the B with the D. Sometimes they even confuse it with the letter P, and that's normal. So that's why I purposely labeled it in that way, so you could see the kinds of ways that a child might do writing in kindergarten. So boys and girls, here I'm illustrating how I play with my daughter. What you see here next to me that I labeled with the letter T is a tent. We have a tent. It's like a little princess tent that we go inside and we play in. So that's what the letter T is for. It's for the tent that we play with. So now look at my sentence. I tried to add a little more detail in it. So once your child is more comfortable with expanding their sentences, I definitely encourage that as well. I know you have a lot of lines, and I'm not expecting the children to fill up all the lines of their writing. One sentence is acceptable as long as they write it themselves. If they want to write more, then we can guide them on writing another sentence. But definitely for sure, like I want them to understand the formation of at least one cohesive sentence. The sentence that I wrote says, I can play with my daughter. And that's another example of how children hear words. They listen to the sounds of the word. They're not going to know the silent G, the silent H. They're not going to learn that until like about second grade or so. Whatever sounds that they hear, that's the sounds that they're going to write for the word. Another thing, boys and girls, I wanted to show you, when you are having a sentence that has more words, you bring the next few words down to the next line, but you continue with lowercase letters, okay? So I start my sentence with an uppercase letter, but as you continue writing your sentence, remember you stay with the lowercase letters, okay? Always remember finger space between the words so that way the letters are not jumbled up next to each other. Illustrate with details, put the labels, and then whatever you illustrate, you match that picture with your sentence, okay? And even just for one sentence, you might need to repeat the sentence over and over to break each word apart to actually form that sentence, okay? So this is my final writing piece, and now that I've shown it to you, boys and girls, the last step would be coloring with my color pencils. So this was my sample of a pattern book. Yours are gonna look different. I'm not expecting anyone to cook, of course. So whatever you boys and girls want to write about, you tell me what you can do, okay? This is what Miss Castro can do, okay? And I want to see what you boys and girls can do. Tell me 4 different things, and I say 4 because one of the pages is the cover of your book, okay? And as you can see on each different page, I wrote and I illustrated something different. I didn't say the same thing over and over again, in the sense that I didn't do reading for 2 pages. I just did reading on 1 page. That's it. Then I thought of something different that I can do, and I figured I can sleep. So I illustrated that. So you want to find 4 different things that you can do, boys and girls, so that way you can do your first pattern books too. Okay?